Chapter 1. When your twin flame refuses connection. There is a moment in the twin flame journey that feels like the world has collapsed. You thought you had found the one soul who mirrors you, who completes you, who awakens you in ways no one else ever could. The intensity of the connection is undeniable, so magnetic that it feels almost destined. And yet suddenly they turn away. They refuse to connect. They might ignore your calls, block your messages, or simply vanish without explanation. And you are left asking, how could this happen? Why would the very soul who feels like home refuse to be with me? This chapter is about that devastating moment when your twin flame says no, either in words or in silence. It is about the heartbreak that feels unbearable and yet carries the seed of transformation. Because in truth, this rejection is not the end of your journey. It is a doorway to a deeper kind of awakening, the shattering of illusion. First, the rejection feels like betrayal. How could someone who feels like your mirror abandon you? How could they not feel what you feel? It shakes you to the core because this is not like ordinary love. This connection was divine, electrifying, life-changing. When they walk away, it doesn't just feel like losing a lover, it feels like losing a part of yourself. You might describe it as a soul death, a dark night where every light goes out. This is the shattering of illusion. Many of us enter the twin flame journey carrying a deep unconscious belief. When I find them, everything will make sense. My life will finally be complete. We project our longing, our emptiness, our unfinished stories onto this person. We make them the key to our happiness. And so, when they refuse connection, that illusion burns. It is painful, like having your chest ripped open. But the truth behind the pain is this. No one else, not even your twin flame, is responsible for completing you. Why rejection happens? It is not uncommon for twin flames to run from each other. One soul awakens faster, feels the connection more intensely, and wants union. The other feels overwhelmed, exposed, or terrified of the mirror being held up to their deepest wounds. Imagine this. You are suddenly faced with someone who sees through every mask you've ever worn. They see your light, but they also see your shadow. They trigger insecurities you thought you had buried forever. They remind you of the trauma you never healed. For some souls, this is unbearable. The easiest response is to reject, to run, to say, I can't handle this. So when your twin flame refuses connection, it is not necessarily because they don't love you. Often, it is because the intensity of love is too much for where they are on their healing journey. But here is the paradox. Their rejection is actually part of the divine plan. It forces you to stop seeking wholeness outside yourself and begin the real work, the inner work, the mirror of pain. Let's pause here and ask a difficult but important question. What is this rejection really showing you about yourself? When your twin flame says no, you are thrown into a storm of emotions. Grief, anger, abandonment, self-doubt. Every wound you've ever carried. Every time you felt unwanted, unseen, unworthy resurfaces. This is the mirror. Their refusal does not create your wounds. It simply activates the ones already living inside you. The emptiness you feel is not new. It has been there all along, quietly hidden beneath distractions, relationships, or achievements. Now, the universe is asking you to face it, to sit with it, to stop running from your own shadow. And yes, it hurts. But this is the pain that purifies. This is the pain that cracks you open to something greater than romantic love. A story of rejection. Let me give you an example. There was a woman who met her twin flame in her early 30s. The connection was instant and overwhelming. They finished each other's sentences, shared the same dreams, and felt like two halves of one soul. But after a few months, he began to withdraw. He said he wasn't ready for this kind of relationship. He blocked her on social media, stopped answering her calls, and disappeared. She was devastated. For months, she cried herself to sleep, replaying every memory, wondering what she had done wrong. She even tried to move on with other people, but nothing felt the same. The emptiness remained. At first, she thought his rejection meant she was unworthy of love. But as time went on, she realized something deeper. His rejection had forced her to look at herself. She began journaling, meditating, and seeking therapy. She discovered that she had been carrying a lifetime of abandonment wounds, from her parents, from past relationships, that she had never healed. His refusal had cracked her open, but it also pushed her into the most transformative period of her life. She eventually came to see his rejection not as cruelty, but as a divine catalyst. A question for you. So let me ask you this: when your twin flame refuses connection, will you let that rejection define your worth? Or will you see it as the universe's way of calling you inward? Because here's the truth. Rejection is never the final word in the twin flame journey. It is simply a phase, a painful but necessary step that strips away illusion and brings you back to yourself. It is the invitation to stop clinging, to stop chasing, to stop begging love to come from outside. It is the invitation to remember that love has always been inside you. The choice point. Every soul who faces twin flame rejection arrives at a choice point. You can choose to stay in the loop of longing, waiting endlessly for their return, checking their online status, reading every sign as a message from them. This path will only keep you stuck, drained and disconnected from your own power. Or you can choose to let go, not of love but of attachment. You can accept their no as a sacred mirror and use it to turn inward. You can choose healing, growth, and alignment with your soul mission. One path keeps you trapped in suffering. The other path liberates you. Which one will you choose? Closing of Chapter 1. When your twin flame refuses connection, it feels like the end. But in truth, it is the beginning. It is the universe's way of saying, stop searching for home in another person. Find it within yourself. This chapter is not about easy comfort. It is about raw honesty. Rejection hurts, breaks you open. But through that breaking, something extraordinary can emerge. The realization that you are already whole. And from that wholeness, a new kind of love can grow, one that no rejection can ever take away. Chapter 2: The Ego, Attachment, and the Power of Letting Go. When your twin flame refuses connection, the pain feels unbearable. But if we look closer, we realize something profound. Much of this pain comes not from love itself, but from the ego's attachment. The ego wants control. The ego wants certainty. The ego wants to possess. And when those desires are threatened, it panics. But here's the paradox. The twin flame journey is not about control. It is about surrender. It is not about possession, it is about liberation. So how do we move from attachment to freedom? From clinging to letting go? That is what this chapter explores. The voice of the ego. The ego is not your enemy. It is simply the part of you that believes survival depends on control. It whispers things like, if they don't choose you, you're not worthy. You must do something, text them, chase them, prove yourself. If they're gone, you'll never be happy again. Notice how these thoughts tighten your chest, create anxiety, and trap you in endless cycles of fear. This is the voice of the ego. It wants to hold on because letting go feels like death. But the truth is, love is not control. Love cannot be forced, manipulated, or demanded. True love expands, it doesn't cage. Why we attach so deeply? Attachment is natural. When we feel an intense bond, our nervous system interprets it as survival. We attach the way a child attaches to a parent, believing that without them we cannot live. For many twin flames, the bond awakens old attachment wounds. If you were abandoned as a child, rejected in past relationships, or made to feel unworthy of love, the twin flame connection stirs all of it to the surface. That is why their rejection feels unbearable. It touches the deepest scar in your soul. But here's the invitation. Instead of trying to numb the pain with chasing, can you sit with it? Can you ask yourself, what old wound is being revealed here? A mirror of inner lack. Let me give you an example. There was a man who met his twin flame. After years of failed relationships, for the first time he felt truly seen. She laughed at his jokes, shared his passions, and understood his silence. He believed, finally the universe has given me the love I deserve. But when she began to withdraw, he panicked. He called her constantly, sent long messages, and begged her to explain why she was pulling away. The more he chased, the more she ran. It was only later, through meditation and therapy, that he realized the truth. He wasn't just afraid of losing her. He was afraid of facing the emptiness inside himself. His attachment was a mirror of the inner lack he had never healed. The lesson: twin flame rejection is never just about the other person. It is about what their absence forces you to confront within yourself. The illusion of control. Ask yourself this: what do you really gain by holding on so tightly? The ego says, if I keep thinking about them, if I keep manifesting, if I keep pushing, they will come back. But has that ever worked? Or has it only drained your energy, leaving you more empty than before? Control is an illusion. You cannot control another soul's timing, wounds, or choices. What you can control is your response. You can choose to remain chained to their rejection, or you can choose to step into freedom. Letting go, not loss but liberation. Here is a powerful truth. Letting go does not mean losing them. It means releasing your grip on how you think the connection should look. When you let go, you stop clinging to the fantasy of immediate reunion. You stop demanding that they heal on your timeline. You stop believing that your happiness depends on their return. Instead, you open space for healing, for growth, for alignment. You return to your own soul. Think of it like holding a butterfly. If you clutch it too tightly, you crush its wings. But if you open your hands, it may choose to return freely. And even if it doesn't, the act of opening frees both you and the butterfly. A personal transformation story. There was a young woman who experienced this lesson deeply. Her twin flame rejected her, telling her he wasn't ready for commitment. At first, she spiraled into despair, stalking his social media, replaying old conversations, waiting for a sign. One day, exhausted by the endless cycle, she decided to stop. She deleted his number, closed her journal of signs, and sat in silence. For the first time, she asked herself, who am I without him? What do I want beyond this connection? That was the turning point. She began painting again, a passion she had abandoned. She volunteered at a local shelter. She started meditating every morning. Slowly, she realized that her worth had never depended on his attention. Months later, when he reached out, she was no longer the same woman who once begged for his love. She had transformed. And whether he stayed or left, she knew she would remain whole. The courage to surrender. Letting go requires courage. It feels like stepping into the unknown, like dying to the self you once were. But this surrender is the very heart of the twin flame journey. Because what is union if not the merging of souls beyond ego? What is love if not freedom from fear? To surrender is to trust that the universe knows what it's doing. It is to believe that rejection is redirection. That every no from your twin flame is secretly guiding you to a deeper yes within yourself. Rhetorical reflection. So let me ask you, are you clinging to a version of love that keeps you trapped? Are you mistaking attachment for connection? Are you willing to loosen your grip, even if it means facing the fear of being alone? Because the truth is this: you are never really alone. The love you crave is already inside you, waiting to be remembered. Closing of Chapter 2. The ego resists letting go because it thinks love is about possession. But real love is about liberation. The moment you release your grip, you stop suffocating both yourself and your twin flame. You create space for healing, for alignment, for destiny to unfold in its own timing. Remember this: letting go is not giving up. It is giving over to something greater than your fear, greater than your ego, greater than the illusion of control. And in that surrender, you will discover the freedom that no rejection can take away. Chapter 3: Transforming Pain into Power. When your twin flame refuses connection, the pain is undeniable. Feels raw, piercing, like a wound that refuses to close. For many, it is the deepest heartbreak they will ever know. But here's the truth that often takes time to realize. Within that pain lies immense power. Pain is not the enemy, it is energy. And energy can be transformed. Just as fire can destroy, but also forge steel, heartbreak can break you down. Or it can burn away what no longer serves you and shape you into something stronger, more radiant, more aligned with your soul mission. This chapter is about that alchemy. How to take the sorrow of twin flame rejection and turn it into creativity, healing, and spiritual growth. The nature of pain. Let's begin with a question. Why does it hurt so much when your twin flame refuses connection? The answer is not just about them. It is about what their absence awakens in you. Their no doesn't just echo in the present. It reverberates through every unhealed memory of abandonment, betrayal, and loss you've ever carried. Pain is a signal. It says, something inside you needs attention. Something inside you is asking to be healed. If you only numb it, run from it, or distract yourself, you miss the gift it carries. But if you lean into, if you allow yourself to feel it fully, you open the doorway to transformation. From heartbreak to creativity. History is full of examples of people who turned heartbreak into art. Musicians write their most haunting songs after loss. Writers craft stories that touch millions because they poured their brokenness onto the page. Pain has a way of cracking us open, revealing depths of emotion we didn't know we had. Ask yourself, what if your heartbreak could become your canvas? What if the very energy you spend longing for your twin flame could be redirected into creation? One woman I spoke to began painting after her twin flame walked away. She said, every brushstroke was like a prayer. Every color a release of what I couldn't put into words. Her art not only healed her, but also inspired others who saw their own stories reflected in her work. Creativity is a sacred form of transmutation. When you create, you are not running from pain, you are giving it a voice, a shape, a beauty it never had before. Healing through self-discovery. Beyond creativity, pain invites us into deep self-discovery. When your twin flame rejects you, your first instinct may be to blame yourself. I wasn't enough. But what if this is not about inadequacy but about initiation? What if this heartbreak is the very event that pushes you to rediscover who you truly are? Many people only begin their healing journey after twin flame rejection. They start therapy, inner child work, meditation, or energy practices. They uncover layers of trauma, limiting beliefs, and hidden strengths. One man described it like this. When she left, I thought I was broken. But through the pain, I realized I had been disconnected from myself for years. Her leaving forced me to come home to me. Pain can be the greatest teacher, if you allow it to guide you inward rather than outward. The spiritual alchemy of suffering. In spiritual traditions across the world, suffering is often seen as a crucible for transformation. In Buddhism, suffering reveals attachment. In Christianity, suffering is the path to resurrection. In alchemy, base metals are burned and purified to become gold. The twin flame journey is no different. Rejection is not punishment. It is purification. It strips you of illusion, pride, and dependence, leaving only what is true. But here's the paradox. The very suffering you resist is the key to your spiritual awakening. When you stop asking, why me? And start asking, what is this teaching me? Everything changes. A story of alchemy. Let me share a story. A young man, deeply in love with his twin flame, was devastated when she married someone else. For months he spiraled into despair. But instead of numbing the pain, he decided to face it. He journaled daily, meditated, and studied spiritual texts. Over time, he noticed something remarkable. His pain transformed into compassion. He began to feel empathy not just for her, but for everyone who had ever experienced heartbreak. He started volunteering at a support group for divorced men, offering guidance and a listening ear. Years later, he said, her rejection was my awakening. Without that pain, I would never have discovered my purpose, to help others heal. This is the power of alchemy. Pain, when embraced, becomes service. Heartbreak, when transformed, becomes mission. The role of choice. But let's be clear. Transformation is not automatic. Pain does not magically become power just because time passes. Many people stay stuck in cycles of longing, replaying old wounds for years. The difference lies in choice. You can choose to remain in victimhood, repeating the story of how they hurt you. Or you can choose to use the pain as fuel for growth. You can ask, what can I learn from this? How can I use this energy in a higher way? Your twin flame's rejection may be outside your control, but your response to it, that is entirely yours. Rhetorical reflection. So I ask you, will you let this heartbreak bury you? Or will you let it rebirth you? Will you remain chained to their absence? Or will you rise into your own presence? Will you see yourself as abandoned or as chosen by the universe to awaken through fire? Because the truth is this, pain is a portal. What you do with it determines whether you remain in darkness or step into light. Spiritual growth beyond the wound. When you begin transforming pain into power, you step into a new dimension of spiritual growth. You realize that love is not about possession but presence. That worth is not about who chooses you but about who you choose to become. That rejection is not the end, but the beginning of self-realization. Many discover their soul mission in this stage. They become healers, teachers, artists, leaders, not because life was easy but because they walked through fire and came out shining. And isn't that the true purpose of the twin flame journey? Not merely to find union with another, but to awaken the divine within yourself. Closing of Chapter 3. Pain is powerful. Can destroy you, yes, but it can also transform you. When your twin flame refuses connection, the heartbreak is real. But so is the opportunity. You can choose to let pain consume you. Or you can choose to alchemize it into creativity, healing, and spiritual growth. You can turn wounds into wisdom, scars into strength, heartbreak into higher purpose. Remember this. You are not broken because they said no. You are being broken open, so that the light within you can shine brighter than ever before. Chapter 4. Living your soul mission without reunion. There comes a moment in the twin flame journey when you realize something startling. Reunion is not guaranteed. It may not happen in this lifetime, and even if it does, it may not look the way your ego imagined. This realization can feel like another heartbreak. After all, isn't union the ultimate prize, the fairy tale ending, the reason we endure so much pain? But the deeper truth is more liberating. Union is not the goal. Awakening is. And your soul mission, the purpose you came here to fulfill, does not depend on whether your twin flame stands beside you or not. The myth of reunion. So many seekers begin their twin flame journey believing that reunion is the finish line. If they just do enough healing, enough manifesting, enough waiting, eventually they will be rewarded with union. But this belief can become a trap. It keeps you focused on the future, always grasping for what isn't here, instead of embodying your power in the present. Ask yourself, what if reunion never happens? Does that mean your life is wasted? Or could it mean that the universe is guiding you toward a different kind of fulfillment? Soul mission above all. Your soul did not come to earth just to find another person. Came to grow, to expand, to serve, to contribute something unique to the collective. That is your soul mission. For some, the mission is healing others. For some, it is creating art that awakens hearts. For others, it is raising conscious children, teaching, leading, inventing, or simply embodying love in everyday acts. Your twin flame may be part of that mission or they may not, but the mission itself remains. And it is calling you even now, especially now, whether reunion is possible or not. A story of purpose. Consider the story of a woman who met her twin flame in her 20s. Their connection was profound, but he chose another path, marrying someone else. She spent years waiting, hoping, believing he would return. Eventually, she realized she was putting her entire life on hold for a someday that might never come. So she shifted her focus. She began teaching meditation in her community. She started a podcast about healing. She wrote a book about her journey through rejection and awakening. To her surprise, her work touched thousands of people. She received letters from strangers saying, "Your story gave me hope. Your voice helped me heal." Years later, she admitted, "I used to think my purpose was to be with him, but I see now my purpose was to awaken others. And I wouldn't have done that if I kept waiting." This is what happens when you stop making reunion the center of your universe and instead step fully into your soul mission. The danger of waiting. Waiting for your twin flame to return can feel intoxicating. You see signs everywhere, you interpret dreams, you cling to synchronicities. But waiting can also be paralyzing. Keeps you in a state of pause, like holding your breath until they come back. Meanwhile, your life passes by, dreams left undone, opportunities missed, talents unexplored. The truth is this: your mission cannot wait. The world needs your light now. What if the very reason your twin flame said no was to push you toward your mission? What if their absence is the catalyst that drives you to discover the fullness of your purpose? Living your mission alone yet whole. Living your soul mission without reunion does not mean living half a life. In fact, it often means living more fully than ever before. When you detach from the outcome of reunion, you reclaim your energy. You stop pouring it into longing and start channeling it into creation. You become a vessel for something greater. Love expressed not just as romance, but as service, inspiration, and transformation. And here's the irony. The more you embody your mission, the more magnetic you become. Not just to your twin flame but to everyone around you. You radiate alignment, and alignment is irresistible. Rhetorical reflection. So let me ask you, what gifts have you been hiding while waiting for reunion? What passions have you put aside, thinking you'll return to them after union? What if your soul mission is not a side story, but the main story all along? Would you rather live a life half-lived, waiting for someone to return, or a life ablaze with purpose, regardless of who stands beside you? The collective dimension. The twin flame journey is not just personal. It is collective. It is about healing ancestral patterns, transforming relationships, and raising the vibration of humanity. When one twin flame steps fully into their mission, the ripple effect is enormous. Their light awakens others, their healing opens pathways, their courage inspires entire communities. Reunion may or may not happen, but your contribution to the collective is guaranteed if you choose to live it. Paradoxical freedom. Here's the paradox. The moment you stop needing reunion, you become free. You stop living in fear of loss. You stop bargaining with the universe. You stop measuring your worth by whether your twin flame accepts you. Instead, you root yourself in your mission, your truth, your divine essence. And from that place of wholeness, you live a life so abundant, so meaningful that reunion becomes secondary. And sometimes that is precisely when reunion finally occurs, not as a necessity but as a bonus. Closing of Chapter 4. Living your soul mission without reunion is not a tragedy. It is liberation. It is the recognition that love is not confined to one person, and purpose is not delayed by anyone's choice. Your twin flame may walk beside you or they may not. But your path, your mission, your calling, those remain. And they are more than enough to fill a lifetime with meaning. Remember this. Union is not the ultimate goal. Awakening is. And when you live your soul mission, you are already in union with your higher self, with the universe, and with the eternal flame of love that no rejection can extinguish. Chapter 5. The freedom of self-love and wholeness. When your twin flame refuses connection, the temptation is to believe that you are incomplete without them, that somehow they are the missing half of your soul. And until they return, you will always feel broken. But here is the liberating truth. You are not half of anything. You are whole. Always have been, always will be. The twin flame journey is not about finding completion in another. It is about remembering your own completeness. And the path to that remembrance is self-love. The myth of the missing half. One of the most persistent myths in spirituality is that of the other half. That somewhere out there is a person who makes you whole. It is romantic, yes, but also dangerous. Because when you buy into this myth, you hand your power away. You start believing, I am not enough. Until they come back. My happiness depends on them choosing me. Without them, I am lost. But the truth is this. You are not a fragment looking for completion. You are a complete soul, experiencing the mirror of another. The twin flame does not complete you. They reflect you. What self-love really means. Self-love is often misunderstood as bubble baths, positive affirmations, or indulgence. While those can be expressions of self-care, self-love is far deeper. Self-love is setting boundaries that honor your worth, choosing yourself even when others do not, speaking to yourself with kindness instead of criticism, trusting your intuition over external approval, living in alignment with your truth, even if it disappoints others. It is the radical act of standing in your own wholeness even when the world or your twin flame does not validate it. A story of remembering wholeness. Consider the story of Elena, a woman who felt shattered when her twin flame left. She spent months begging the universe for signs, pulling tarot cards and praying for reunion. But one night in meditation, a realization struck her. She had been waiting for him to bring her the love she had never given herself. She had been demanding that he heal her wounds, when in truth that was her own responsibility. So she began small. She wrote love letters to herself. She stopped apologizing for her needs. She took herself on weekly dates, museums, coffee shops, walks in the park. She became her own beloved. Months later, she described her transformation like this. I used to feel like half a soul waiting for him to make me whole. Now I feel like a universe. Whether he comes back or not, I am already complete. Wholeness is a state of being. Here's the paradox. When you stop chasing wholeness in another, you actually become magnetic. People feel your energy shift. You radiate confidence, peace, and authenticity. You are no longer grasping, you are glowing. And even if your twin flame never returns, you discover something more powerful. The ability to walk the earth as a sovereign being, unshaken by absence, rooted in love that comes from within. Wholeness is not a destination. It is a state of being available to you right now. The trap of conditional love. Ask yourself this. Have I been loving myself only on condition? Do you say, I'll feel worthy when they return? Or, I'll love myself once I lose the weight, get the job, or find the partner? This is conditional love, and it keeps you in chains. True self-love is unconditional. It says, I am worthy now. I am lovable now. I am complete now. Your twin flame's rejection does not reduce your value. Your worth was never up for negotiation. Practical steps toward self-love. Self-love is not just a concept, it is a practice. Here are some ways to embody it daily. Inner dialogue audit. Notice how you speak to yourself. Would you talk to a child or a beloved friend the way you talk to you? If not, shift the tone. Replace judgment with compassion. Celebrate small wins. Every step toward healing is progress. Celebrate yourself for showing up, for trying, for surviving heartbreak with courage. Create a love ritual. Write affirmations, practice mirror work, or develop a gratitude journal where you thank yourself for everything you've done. Honor your needs. If you're tired, rest. If you're inspired, create. If you need boundaries, set them. Loving yourself means listening to yourself. Reconnect with joy. Ask, what did I love as a child? Before the world told me who to be. Dance, paint, sing, explore. Reclaim joy as your birthright. A rhetorical reflection. So I ask you now, who are you without your twin flame? What love have you been withholding from yourself? What would your life look like if you treated yourself as the soulmate you've always been searching for? Because the truth is this, the relationship you have with yourself sets the tone for every other relationship. If you abandon yourself, you will attract abandonment. If you cherish yourself, you will attract love that mirrors that cherishing. The freedom in self-love. When you anchor into self-love, something miraculous happens. You are free. Free from chasing, free from waiting, free from the roller coaster of their yes or no. You no longer need them to validate your existence. You no longer crumble at rejection. You no longer postpone your happiness. Instead, you live. You love yourself. You pursue your mission. You shine. And in that freedom, life opens. Opportunities flow. Joy returns. You realize you never needed reunion to feel whole because you already are. Closing of Chapter 5. The twin flame journey is not about finding the missing half. It is about remembering the fullness of who you already are. When your twin flame refuses connection, it may feel like you've been left incomplete. But the truth is the opposite. It is the invitation to discover your own wholeness, to fall in love with yourself, and to live from a place of freedom no rejection can touch. Self-love is not selfish. It is sacred. It is the foundation upon which every other form of love is built. Remember this, you are not waiting to be completed. You are the flame itself, whole, radiant, eternal. Chapter 6. Channeling twin flame energy into collective healing and service. The twin flame journey is often spoken of in deeply personal terms. The longing, the heartbreak, the reunion. But what if this connection was never meant to serve only you? What if the fire of this love was designed to illuminate not just your path, but also the path of others? When your twin flame refuses connection, the energy does not simply vanish. The love, the intensity, the passion, it remains. The question is, what will you do with it? Will you let it burn you from the inside out? Or will you channel it into something greater, something that heals not only you but the collective? This chapter explores how to transform twin flame energy into collective healing and service, turning personal longing into global light. The overflow of energy. If you've been on this journey, you know the truth. Twin flame energy is not ordinary. It is not the same as crushes, romances, or even soulmates. It is expansive, electric, almost unbearable at times. It shakes you awake at night, floods you with visions, and fills you with love that feels too big for one heart to hold. When connection is refused, that energy can feel like torment. It circles inside you with nowhere to go. But here lies the hidden key. That energy was never meant to be contained. It was meant to flow outward into creation, healing, and service. The shift from me to we. At the beginning, the twin flame journey feels like it's about me and you, my love, my longing, my union. But as awakening deepens, you realize it is about we, the collective, the planet, humanity itself. The purpose of twin flames is not just personal romance. It is to anchor higher consciousness into the world. That means living in love, embodying truth, and serving others. So ask yourself, how can I take the intensity one feel for my twin flame and pour it into something that uplifts others? Service as transmutation. Service is one of the most powerful ways to transmute energy. When you give, you shift focus from lack to abundance. You stop asking, why don't I have what I want? And start asking, how can I give what I have? This is not about martyrdom or self-sacrifice. It is about channeling love so vast it cannot be contained into places where it is needed most. Imagine the energy you once spent refreshing their profile, analyzing every sign, or crying into your pillow. What if that same energy went into volunteering at a shelter, mentoring a young person, or starting a project that brings hope to others? Your pain becomes purpose. Your longing becomes legacy. A story of transformation. Let me share the story of Marcus. Marcus was consumed with grief. After his twin flame cut off contact, he felt paralyzed, stuck in cycles of waiting. One day, a friend suggested he volunteer at a local food bank, just to get out of the house. Reluctantly, he went. What he found surprised him. As he handed out meals, he felt the same warmth he once felt with his twin flame. The energy of connection, of love flowing freely. He realized something profound. The love he thought was only for her was actually love that could be shared with anyone. Marcus began volunteering weekly. Eventually, he started a community garden project teaching kids how to grow their own food. He said, I thought my love story ended when she walked away. But really it began again, this time with humanity. His heartbreak became healing not just for himself, but for hundreds of others. Creativity as collective healing. Not all service is traditional. Sometimes service looks like creating art, music, or writing that carries the vibration of your journey. Think of the songs that healed you when you were broken, or the books that gave you hope. They were born from someone else's pain that was transformed into collective medicine. Perhaps your twin flame energy wants to be expressed through poetry, dance, or painting. Perhaps your story, raw and unfiltered, could be the very thing that saves another soul from despair. Creation is service because when you share your truth, you give others permission to heal too. The spiritual dimension of service. Service is not just about helping others, it is a spiritual practice. When you serve, you align with the divine. You move from separation to unity, from ego to essence. Many mystics have said, if you cannot find God in the eyes of another, you will not find Him anywhere. Similarly, if you cannot find your twin flame's love in the act of serving others, you will not truly understand what twin flame love is. Because twin flame love is not about possession, it is about expansion. It is about becoming so full of love that you cannot help but let it overflow into the world. Practical ways to channel energy. If you are wondering how to begin, here are some practical steps. Volunteer work. Join a local cause. Animal rescue, homeless outreach, environmental projects. Use your energy to create tangible change. Creative expression. Write, paint, sing, or film your journey. Share it online or with your community. Let your vulnerability be medicine. Spiritual service. Offer meditation groups, healing circles, or simply hold space for friends who are struggling. Mentorship and teaching. Share your lessons with those just beginning their path. Guide others through what you've already endured. Acts of everyday love. Remember, service is not always grand. It can be smiling at a stranger, listening deeply, or choosing kindness when anger would be easier. A rhetorical reflection. So I ask you, what if the love you feel for your twin flame was never meant to stop at them? What if it was meant to ripple outward, touching lives you may never even meet? What legacy could you leave if you stopped waiting for reunion and started serving from the love already within you? The collective awakening. We live in a time of great transformation. The planet itself is shifting, and humanity is being asked to rise into higher consciousness. Twin flames are part of this movement, not as romantic symbols but as torchbearers. When you channel your love into service, you contribute to this collective awakening. You embody the truth that love is not limited, not scarce, not conditional. You prove through your actions that love is infinite, even when personal desires go unfulfilled. Closing of Chapter 6. Channeling twin flame energy into collective healing and service is the ultimate act of alchemy. It turns personal heartbreak into universal love. It transforms longing into legacy. Your twin flame may refuse connection, but they cannot stop the love within you from flowing. That love belongs not just to one person, it belongs to the world. Remember this, the fire of twin flame. Energy was never meant to consume you. It was meant to ignite you, and through you to ignite others. Chapter 7. Reframing rejection as divine redirection. Rejection is a word that carries heavy weight. It stings. It feels like dismissal, abandonment, or proof that we are unworthy. When your twin flame refuses connection, it can feel like the deepest rejection of all because this is not just anyone. This is the soul who feels like your mirror, your destiny. But what if rejection is not rejection at all? What if it is redirection? What if every no you have received was the universe's way of steering you toward something greater, something necessary, something aligned with your higher path? The pain of the word no. When your twin flame says no, whether through silence, distance, or outright refusal, it cuts deeply. The ego interprets it as final. They don't love me. I am not enough. This is the end. But the soul whispers something different. This is not rejection. This is the universe saying, not this way, not right now, not in this form. The no is not the end of the story. It is a turning of the page. It forces you to shift direction, to explore paths you would never have chosen if you had been given the easy yes. Redirection in disguise. Think of times in your life when you were denied something you thought you wanted. Perhaps a job, relationship, or an opportunity slipped away. At the time it felt devastating. But looking back, can you see how it pushed you towards something else, something better, something more aligned? The same is true with the twin flame journey. Their refusal is not rejection, it is redirection. It is life saying, your growth is not here but there. Your mission is not with them but within you. Your lesson is not union but liberation. A story of divine redirection. Let me share the story of Maya. Maya was convinced her twin flame was meant to be her partner in life and love. When he chose someone else, she was shattered. For months she begged the universe to bring him back. One day in deep meditation she received a vision. She was standing at a crossroads. One path led back to him, but it was narrow, dark, and filled with obstacles. The other path led toward a vast open horizon. The message was clear. He is not the destination. He is the catalyst. Your path lies beyond him. With time, she began to embrace the redirection. She pursued her passion for holistic healing, eventually opening a wellness center that helped hundreds of people. She later reflected, if he had stayed, I would have built my life around him. But because he left, I built my life around my soul. His no was not rejection. It was divine redirection. Trusting the higher plan. Here lies the challenge. We cannot always see the higher plan in the moment. When rejection comes, it feels senseless. We demand answers. Why would the universe bring us together only to tear us apart? But spiritual truth often unfolds in hindsight. What feels like a detour is often the main road. What feels like loss is often protection. What feels like rejection is often preparation. The higher plan is not about immediate comfort. It is about ultimate alignment. Rejection as protection. Consider this. What if your twin flame's refusal is actually protecting you? Protecting you from entangling in their unhealed wounds. Protecting you from delaying your mission. Protecting you from living a smaller life than the one meant for you. Sometimes the universe closes a door not because you are unworthy, but because you are being guided to a doorway you would never find otherwise. The illusion of control. Rejection also teaches us the illusion of control. The ego wants to dictate how love unfolds. It must be them. It must happen now. It must look this way. But the soul knows better. It trusts that whatever comes for your highest good. Whatever leaves for your highest good. So when your twin flame refuses connection, you can cling to the illusion of control, or you can surrender to the wisdom of divine redirection. Rhetorical reflection. Ask yourself, what if every rejection in your life was actually the universe saving you from something misaligned? What if your twin flame's no is not about you being unworthy but about you being redirected? What if the universe is saying, there is something greater waiting, will you trust me? The freedom of trust. When you begin to see rejection as redirection, something shifts inside you. You stop resisting what is. You stop seeing yourself as a victim of circumstance. Instead, you become a co-creator with the universe. Trust frees you from obsession, from self-blame, from despair. It allows you to walk forward, even if you cannot yet see the full map. Because faith is not knowing the entire plan, it is trusting the next step. Closing of Chapter 7. Rejection is not rejection. It is divine redirection. It is the universe clearing the path of what is not meant for you, so you can walk boldly toward what is. Your twin flame's refusal may feel like loss, but it may be the very doorway into your purpose, your wholeness, your service, your liberation. Remember this, the no you hear today may be the yes of your soul tomorrow. Trust the higher plan. The universe has not abandoned you. It is guiding you, always relentlessly lovingly, toward the life your soul came here to live. Chapter 8. Integrating the lessons, how rejection and surrender shape true spiritual maturity. The twin flame journey is not for the faint of heart. It demands that you feel deeply, break open, and surrender in ways you never imagined. When your twin flame refuses connection, it is not just a romantic wound. It is a spiritual test. And how you respond to this test determines whether you remain trapped in cycles of longing, or whether you rise into true spiritual maturity. This chapter is about integration, about taking the pain, the surrender, the letting go, and weaving them into wisdom. It is about becoming not just a seeker of love, but a master of love. A soul who knows how to embody compassion, strength, and presence, even when life does not go as planned. What does spiritual maturity mean? Spiritual maturity is not about knowing all the answers. It is not about floating above pain or pretending you are never hurt. Spiritual maturity is about how you meet life when it does not meet your expectations. It asks, can you face rejection without collapsing into self-hatred? Can you surrender control without giving up your power? Can you love without clinging and let go without bitterness? Maturity means you stop reacting from wounds and start responding from wisdom. You stop demanding that life fit your script and instead trust the script of the divine. The alchemy of rejection. Rejection, when integrated, becomes a teacher. Instead of asking, why did they do this to me? You ask, what is this teaching me? Teaches resilience. You learn that you can survive heartbreak and still rise. It teaches humility. You realize you cannot control another's soul or timing. It teaches compassion. You see that their refusal often comes from fear, not malice. It teaches clarity. You discover the difference between attachment and true love. The wound becomes wisdom. The scar becomes a source of strength. The gift of surrender. Surrender is another hallmark of spiritual maturity. Not surrender as in defeat, but surrender as in trust. You stop wrestling with why and start resting in what is. Think of a river. The ego wants to build dams to control the flow, to decide where the water goes. But surrender is lying back, letting the current carry you, trusting that it knows the way to the ocean. When your twin flame refuses connection, surrender says, I release them to their journey. I release myself to mine. I trust the divine flow. This surrender is not passive. It is powerful. It frees your energy from resistance and channels it into creation, healing, and service. A story of integration. Let me share the story of Daniel. Daniel's twin flame left suddenly, without explanation. At first, he spiraled into obsession, replaying every detail of their last conversation. He felt humiliated, angry, abandoned. But over time, Daniel began to shift. He sought therapy, practiced meditation, and journaled his feelings. He realized that his pain was not just about her. It was about his lifelong fear of being unwanted, a fear rooted in childhood. Abandonment. Through this realization, Daniel began to heal. He learned to love himself without external validation. He forgave her not because she asked for it but because he needed peace. Years later, Daniel reflected. Her leaving was the hardest thing I ever faced. But it was also the thing that made me grow up spiritually. I learned to love without possession. I learned to trust the unknown. I became stronger, softer, wiser. That was the gift. Signs of spiritual maturity on the twin flame path. How do you know you are integrating the lessons? Here are some signs. You no longer chase. You feel love for your twin flame, but you don't grasp. You allow space, trusting that what is meant will unfold. You feel compassion, not resentment. Instead of blaming them, you see their wounds. You understand their refusal may be part of their healing. You anchor in the present. You stop obsessing about future reunion and start living fully here and now. You trust the bigger picture. Even without answers, you feel guided. You know the universe wastes nothing. You shine beyond the connection. Your identity is no longer defined by reunion. You embody love, purpose, and service regardless of their choices. Rhetorical reflection. So let me ask you, how has rejection shaped you? Has it hardened you or softened you into deeper compassion? Can you surrender without feeling powerless? What would it mean for you to live as a spiritually mature being, not waiting for love but embodying it now? Integration as embodiment. Integration is not about theory, it is about embodiment. You can read 100 books on surrender, but until you live it, it remains an idea. Integration means you don't just talk about love, you become love. You don't just understand surrender, you practice it when the universe says no. You don't just admire wisdom, you embody it in your daily life, in how you treat yourself and others. The twin flame journey becomes less about reunion and more about evolution. Less about when will they come back, and more about how am I growing, how am I serving, how am I embodying love today. The collective ripple of maturity. When you integrate these lessons, you don't just heal yourself, you ripple healing outward. Others watch how you respond to heartbreak and are inspired. They see that rejection does not have to destroy you, that love can be unconditional, that surrender can be strength. Your maturity becomes medicine. Your wholeness becomes a beacon. Your journey becomes a guidepost for others walking their own path of pain and awakening. Closing of Chapter 8. Rejection and surrender are not punishments, they are initiations. They strip away illusion and force you into the fire of transformation. When integrated, they shape you into a spiritually mature being. Resilient, compassionate, surrendered, whole. Your twin flame may or may not return, but your maturity, your wisdom, your embodiment of love, that is yours forever. Remember this, spiritual maturity is not about escaping pain. It is about allowing pain to become the doorway into wisdom. It is about living not as someone waiting for love, but as someone who is love. And when you embody that, you are already in union not just with your twin flame but with the divine itself. Chapter 9. Rebuilding your life. Practical steps to thrive after twin flame rejection. The moment your twin flame refuses connection, life can feel like it has lost all meaning. The colors seem duller. The future feels empty. Your heart aches with every breath. It is natural to grieve, to cry, to feel lost. But at some point, a quiet voice inside whispers, "You are still here. You are still alive. And your life is not over." Rebuilding after twin flame rejection is not about pretending the pain never happened. It is about creating a life so rich, so meaningful, so aligned with your soul that you thrive regardless of reunion. It is about turning heartbreak into a foundation for a new beginning. Step 1. Allow yourself to grieve. Before rebuilding, you must honor the collapse. Grief is not weakness. It is love without a place to go. When you suppress grief, it hardens into bitterness. When you allow grief, it softens into wisdom. Give yourself permission to feel. Cry, write, scream into a pillow, walk in the rain. Let your body process the energy of loss. Healing begins not in denial but in honesty. Remember, Grief is not a sign you have failed. It is a sign you dared to love deeply. Step 2. Reclaim your energy. After rejection, much of your energy may still be tied to your twin flame. You replay conversations, stalk their social media, analyze every sign. This drains your life force. Reclaiming your energy means consciously pulling your focus back to yourself. Some practical steps. Digital detox. Unfollow, mute, or block them if needed. Not out of spite, but out of self-preservation. Cord-cutting rituals. Visualize releasing energetic ties, affirming, I call my energy back to me. Daily grounding. Spend time in nature. Breathe deeply, remind yourself, I am safe in my own body. When your energy returns, you feel lighter, clearer, more capable of moving forward. Step 3. Rediscover your passions. Often, when consumed by the twin flame journey, you forget the things that once brought you joy. Rebuilding means rediscovering those passions. Ask yourself, what did I love before them? What makes me feel alive when no one is watching? Maybe it's painting, dancing, traveling, writing, or learning a new skill. Maybe it's as simple as cooking a meal that delights you. Passion reignites your spark. It reminds you that your joy does not depend on anyone else's presence. Step 4. Build supportive connections. Though the twin flame bond feels irreplaceable, that doesn't mean you must walk alone. Human beings are wired for connection. Reach out to friends, family, or spiritual communities who support you. Join circles where others are healing too. Even sharing your story with one trusted person can lighten the weight. Remember, your twin flame is not the only soul who can love you. The universe has scattered countless soul connections across your path. Friendships, mentors, soul family, each offering love in unique forms. Step 5. Anchor into daily practices. Healing is not just emotional, it is practical. Anchor yourself through daily practices that nurture body, mind, and spirit. Morning rituals, meditation, journaling, gratitude lists. Physical movement, yoga, running, or even simple stretching. Movement releases trapped energy. Creative expression. Use art, music, or writing as outlets for your emotions. Spiritual connection. Prayer, affirmations, or simply sitting in silence with your higher self. These practices remind you daily that you are supported, that you have inner resources, that you can rebuild. Step 6. Redefine your identity. One of the most painful aspects of twin flame rejection is identity loss. You may think, who am I without them? Who am I without union? Rebuilding means redefining your identity, not as their other half, but as a sovereign soul. Affirm daily, I am more than a connection. I am whole. I am powerful. I am here for a purpose. Identity is not something you wait for. It is something you choose moment by moment. Step 7. Create new dreams. When reunion is the dream, rejection feels like dream death. But rebuilding means dreaming again. Ask yourself, where do I want to live? What kind of work excites me? What adventures do I long for? What impact do I want to leave on the world? Write these down. Create vision boards. Take small steps toward them. New dreams infuse your life with direction and hope. A story of rebuilding. Let me share the story of Sophia. Sophia's twin flame refused connection after 2 years of intense ups and downs. When he left, she felt shattered. For months, she lived in a fog of despair. But slowly she began to rebuild. She joined a dance class, something she had always wanted but postponed. She started journaling every morning, turning her pain into poetry. She reconnected with old friends and began traveling to places she had dreamed of visiting. Years later, she reflected, he was the spark that lit my awakening. But losing him forced me to find myself. And now I live a life fuller than I ever imagined. Her story shows, rebuilding is not about erasing love. It is about expanding love to yourself, your dreams, your world. Step 8. Service as renewal. As discussed in earlier chapters, service transforms pain. When you give to others, you shift from emptiness to abundance. Volunteer, mentor, create, share your story. Service roots you in purpose bigger than personal longing. It rebuilds not just your life, but the collective field of love. Rhetorical reflection. So I ask you, are you willing to let go of waiting and begin living? What passions have you silenced that now beg to be reclaimed? What new dreams could you create if you stopped defining your life by one connection? Closing of Chapter 9. Rebuilding. After twin flame rejection is not easy, but it is possible. More than possible, it is transformative. You grieve, yes, but then you rise. You reclaim your energy, rediscover your passions, create new dreams, and live a life that is yours alone. And here is the most empowering truth. Thriving does not mean you stop loving your twin flame. It means you learn to love them without losing yourself. You carry the connection in your heart, but you no longer wait for it to define you. You are whole. You are capable. You are worthy of a life that is rich, vibrant, and free. Rebuilding is not the end of the twin flame story. It is the beginning of your soul's true story. Chapter 10. The inspiring truth: rejection is never the end, only a doorway to transformation. When your twin flame refuses connection, it feels like the end of love, the end of hope, the end of the life you imagined together. The silence, the absence, the void, it can feel final, like a door slamming shut. But what if rejection is not the end at all? What if it is the beginning? What if every no, every closed door, every heartbreak is actually a doorway to transformation, an invitation into a deeper, fuller version of yourself? This is the inspiring truth. Rejection does not diminish you. It redirects you. It awakens you, carves you into someone stronger, wiser, and more radiant than you ever thought you could be. The illusion of finality. When we hear no, we assume permanence. We think, it's over. It's lost. It will never come back. But life is not static, and neither is the twin flame journey. What feels like a permanent ending is often a temporary pause, a sacred detour, a space for growth. Think of the seasons. Winter feels endless, barren, frozen. Yet beneath the soil, seeds are preparing for spring. In the same way, rejection feels like death, but it is planting the seeds of rebirth. The end is never the end. It is only a turning of the page. Transformation through fire. Transformation rarely happens in comfort. It happens in the fire, when illusions burn, when attachments shatter, when the old self crumbles. Rejection is that fire. You entered the twin flame journey one way, perhaps longing, incomplete, searching outside yourself. But rejection forces you to evolve. It pushes you inward into self-love, surrender, and soul mission. The fire hurts, yes, but it also purifies. It strips away everything false until only truth remains. A story of renewal. Consider the story of Layla. Layla believed her twin flame was her destiny. When he refused connection, she was devastated. For months she felt like a ghost, going through the motions of life without truly living. But slowly she began to rebuild. She returned to painting, something she had loved as a child. She began leading women's circles, sharing her story of heartbreak and healing. She discovered a strength in herself she never knew existed. Years later, she said, "His rejection felt like the end, but it was the beginning of me. Without it, I would never have discovered my purpose, my power, my wholeness." Her story is not unique. Across cultures and histories, countless souls have found their greatest transformation not in success, but in loss, not in reunion, but in rejection. Why rejection awakens you? Why does rejection have this power? Because it confronts the deepest illusion, that your worth depends on someone else. When your twin flame refuses connection, you are forced to ask, who am I without them? Am I still whole? Am I still worthy? And when you discover the answer, yes, I am, you awaken. You realize your worth was never tied to their presence. You realize love is not limited to one form. You realize that your soul's mission is bigger than one relationship. Rejection awakens you because it strips away every false source of identity until only your true essence remains. The doorway metaphor. Think of rejection as a doorway. On one side is the life you imagined. Reunion, romance, happily ever after. On the other side is the life the universe has prepared. Healing, growth, service, expansion. The doorway is narrow. To walk through, you must leave behind what no longer serves you. Illusions, attachments, dependence. Feels like loss, but it is liberation. And when you step through, you find not emptiness, but abundance. Not the end, but the beginning of a larger, more luminous path. Rhetorical reflection. So let me ask you, what if rejection is the universe saying, you are meant for more? What if the door that closed was never your home to begin with? What if every heartbreak is not a punishment, but a passage into deeper wisdom? The inspiring truth. Here is the truth you must carry. Rejection does not define you. It refines you. It does not break you. Breaks you open. It does not end you. It begins you. The twin flame journey is not about clinging to one outcome. It is about awakening to the truth that love is infinite, that you are whole, and that transformation is your birthright. Living beyond rejection. When you integrate this truth, you live differently. You no longer see rejection as failure. You see it as initiation. You no longer fear endings. You trust beginnings. You no longer chase love. You embody it. And in that embodiment, you thrive. You live your mission. You radiate wholeness. You inspire others. You discover that the greatest reunion is not with your twin flame but with your own soul. Closing of Chapter 10. Rejection is never the end. It is a doorway into transformation, into wholeness, into a life beyond what you once imagined. Your twin flame's refusal may feel like a loss, but it is also an invitation, a sacred calling to step into your highest self, to live your mission, to embody unconditional love. So walk through the doorway. Trust the path. Embrace the transformation, because the story does not end with their no. It begins with your yes to yourself, to your soul, to the divine plan that is always guiding you home.